never seen a smile so big on my little Lord lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Good evening, CFN. As the title suggests, better late than never. Sorry, so sorry we're late tonight. We had an incredible meet and greet, and unfortunately things went so well that it went a lot longer than we had anticipated. But right off the bat, I can't thank everybody enough that was involved. It's been a long day for everyone that was a part of this, our captains especially. But we just finished the CFN meet and greet 2021. And as I said, for those folks who came out, I see Sarah's on here. Shirley's on here probably as well. I think MJ, I saw you as well on here. It was a fantastic day had by all. Yeah, absolutely, Christina. What a way to end a long weekend. Absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, because of weather and Lake Erie, if anybody knows Lake Erie, you just never know. And Friday it was set to go. Fortunately, we got blown off the lake, so we had to reschedule for Monday. And our two captains, Adam and Matt, Lord of the Fins, as well as the Fishing Fanatics, put on one heck of a show. And I dare say we probably caught today pretty close to, if not over, 100 pounds of walleye. Just an incredible day. 15 anglers came out and had a fantastic time. And again, I can't thank these two captains enough. Fishing Fanatics and Lord of the Fins, Matt Bomeister and Adam Avery. Bingo, bango, what a day. And just to some of our sponsors, these are the immediate sponsors. We're going to be doing some posts. If you haven't seen some of the fish picks already, you will be very, very soon. Got to thank Bonehead Tackle for what Caleb donated. Really appreciated that. Some of our big heavy hitters that came to bat in a big way. Y'all Eye Fish Lures. Chris, can't thank you enough, my friend. Meeks Lures. James Meeks, buddy. I tell you, great gift packs that were given to each participant that showed up. The big one, Cut Bait Company, Anthony, buddy, those cups were amazing, absolutely fantastic. Everybody pulled them out of the boxes, and the minute I saw one, I can't wait to get one myself. MFS Baits was there, and I want to thank Pal Castings and Brad Norris, and especially his daughter, for putting these commemorative T-shirts together. I'm not sure what your daughter's name is, Brad, but she hit it out of the park, and everybody went away with one of these T-shirts. And as I said, it was just a fantastic day out on Lake Erie. Great weather. We got really, really lucky. No storms, no nonsense, and it was phenomenal, Christina. You got that right. Yeah, cups were dope. Absolutely, MJ. Big time donations. As I said, for what folks paid for that charter, they went home with about the equivalent in merchandise and some swag. So big shout out to Michelle. I can't thank this woman enough. And I know she right now would probably be saying, well, just blame it on me that you're late, Scott. And there's no way in heck I could possibly blame it on Michelle, Adam, or anybody else for us being late. It was well worth it. And there's a video. I didn't get all of it. I kind of wish I did, but Michelle presented young Ava. And I got to tell you, this is why we do this. young Ava, she's about this size, and I'm not making fun of you, Ava. You are just a bundle, they put great things in small packages, and Ava, you are exactly that. Michelle presented young Ava a rod that was given to her by Erie Tracker. The folks over at Erie Tracker presented Michelle this rod to give to Ava, and I didn't get all of the video. I wish I did, but to get a hug from this little bundle of joy, that makes it all worthwhile. And it was funny because Michelle at one point said to Ava, don't start crying because then I'm going to cry, and then this guy was going to start. It was just going to be a ball fest. But Ava, you're amazing. Rocky, her father, and Ava presented me a gift pack, and the only stipulation that Ava made was that a young angler receive it in some way. We're going to do a contest, not really sure how, whether it's going to be a fall brawl, junior fall brawl, whatever we're going to do. We're going to do something, and that package is going to be given to a young next-gen CFNer. Just amazing. But as I said, we are definitely going to be doing this again after the success of today. And as I said, you'll see the pictures. Lake Erie did not disappoint. I know Michelle and Adam probably would have wanted more fish. Maybe even Matt did too. But Matt Bolmeister and Adam Avery put on a show, put on a clinic, and filled some coolers and sent some incredible anglers home with some hefty quantities of walleye. So yeah, absolutely, Curtis. Beautiful kindness. It's remarkable to see our community step up in such a way. But as I said, we hopefully have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm not sure, as I said, because we're late. Lawrence called me earlier today, so I'm not sure if Lawrence is going to be able to jump on. He may have, and I totally understand. But there is someone, Dave Gillis. They had an event wishing I was fishing this past weekend that our Saskatchewan chapter and some of our bigwigs over in Saskatchewan were hugely a part of. And I was hoping to get Dave on tonight. So I know I sent him the link. I may have to give him an update or at least give him some kind of a notification. And if anybody's watching that knows Dave, if you can just give him a heads up and let him know that I have sent the link to Sarah. All he has to do is click on the link and we will get to him after we talk to our best bud, who's been extremely patient, probably tying fluff. I tell you, that man can't give out enough fluff. But before we do, here is a word from our sponsor. Big Jim McLaughlin.
What's going on?
Right, buddy?
So, little bit late?
Just a tad bit. I appreciate your patience as always, Jim. It was just such an event, such a great time, and to see so many great CFNers out enjoying.
Like it, yep.
Well, buddy, it was Lake Erie didn't disappoint. Everybody went home with fish. There was some giant fish caught, like really big fish. You're going to see it in the coming days. Folks are going to be posting the heck out of them. But what we want to do is make sure we, of course, we get all of the sponsors that we want to tag and thank for an incredible day. It was just, Jim, it's what dreams are made of, dude.
Yeah, you know, when you go out on days like that, do stuff like that, it's nice to catch a few fish. But if you don't, you know, if it wouldn't have worked out, it's still a hoot. The only time really catching fish counts is when you're doing it for groceries. You know what I mean? It's what
Well,
it is.
you know, it's funny you say that, Jim, because, you know, I made a mention when Sarah brought up her cooler. I said, wow, Sarah went to the grocery store and she flipped the lid and, like, literally, I mean, it was a teeming amount of walleye, but decent size fish, which again tells us that fishery is in no way hurting. And there seems to be lots for these fish to eat.
Yeah. Well, I know guys. I know guys that guide out of the American side, and some of them are doing 2, and when the time is right, sometimes 3 charters a day.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they limit out, they leave, right?
And there's a lot to be talked about on that. You know, of course, Lake Erie is one of those factories of fish that, yes, you can be done your charter by 10:30 in the morning if the fish are biting, the fish are on. But I
know guys that start at sun up, Scotty.
Yeah.
And they're back at the dock at 8:30.
Yeah.
With eight guys on the boat.
Yeah, which is remarkable. It truly is remarkable.
Game. And like in the case of that, like they're not keeping too many fish. Like the place can support it.
Yeah,
it's got a tremendous amount of fish, and you know it's going to do this. It'll happen. It has in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it'll have. It just goes to prove what a healthy body of water it is.
Well, I will say this on the note of captains and charters and what have you. Nobody worked harder than our 2 captains today, Adam and Matt. And but tip of the cup to all those charter captains who go out of their way to make everyone, CFN or not, their day of joy out on the water and catching some fish, because they worked hard today. It's, if you know Lake Erie, you know, we were going to start in Port Colborne. The fish weren't there. We moved over to Port Maitland. We were probably going to go maybe a little bit further west if things allowed us to, but they didn't. Port Maitland was the destination, and those 2 lads worked really hard to get our CFNers on fish. And I can't thank enough for all the charter captains out there that work so darn hard to make sure that we have a great day of fishing.
Yeah, it's a job to them, eh? You know, like they have to, you know, they want you to come back, and if they work hard, they put you on fish. And you know, I know a lot of guys that have gone out with charter guys like that, and they have a bad day. The fish just don't cooperate or whatever. But as long as you're treated right and they take good care of you, you'll come back. You know,
Yeah.
It's just really, really cool to watch them. So when you sent me the last text saying with the GPS time, I went down to the lake and got embarrassed by the fish. So.
Oh no! What happened?
The lake is the bay is dead.
Oh no!
You can't hear a panfish pecking the pads. You couldn't see a minnow. I looked in a boathouse.
Yeah.
It was not a panfish. It's like somebody beamed them out. It's really weird. And 2 nights ago, they were all over the place.
So in a situation like that, Jim, do you venture off into deeper water? You look for structure in deeper water. What would you do?
Well, I'd have a hard time getting the chair out there. Get a longer rod and cast further. No.
So let's say the chair.
See, this is it. A lot of these fish I catch down here, I try to explain to people that after all the fishing I've done, I've learned so much about it from sitting in a chair in the evening out here, just watching the water. And the way you see little things, you see a couple of minnows jump, and you know it isn't a bass chasing them because there's a ripple. You know, it's probably a perch or a rock bass or a sunfish or something chasing them. But when you start seeing bulrush stems do this kind of stuff and it's moving through them, you know, sometimes it's turtle, sometimes it's the bowfin, a lot of times it's a largemouth bass, stuff like that. But when you sit at almost water level and just watch, it's amazing what you see. Like I told you about some of the turtles I've been seeing. Yeah. Like turtles that would scare I mean, I spent my lifetime scrounging shorelines, and I'm seeing largemouth or turtles out there that are just, they're scary. Like you see them when they turn, they come up and like their paws or whatever you call them, their claws at the back are bigger than my hand. You're like way bigger, and my hand's like a catcher's mitt. You know, I mean, their hands are like literally this, like 8-10 inches across their claws. And you wonder, you know, like how big they are, and you see the bubbles coming up. I've learned to follow the bubbles. It's just really, really cool. And I think they just go plant themselves on the bottom and sit there, and we don't put the jig over there. I don't need to get any of those babies.
Now, with that, with those turtles in that shallow water, and I'm going to ask a question for Jake Mann. He's asking, what are the water temps down there, Jim? Are we boiling these turtles and creating
No, it's
turtle?
probably low 70s,
Oh,
mid
okay, so
70s. Yeah, it was hotter earlier in the year. It was 10 degrees here. What, 2 mornings ago?
it was interesting on the drive out this morning at 4 o'clock. Yeah, we were getting fog on the window, which would suggest that it was a heck of a lot warmer inside the truck than it was on the outside. So we had to put the defrost on. But yeah, so we're getting into those August days, probably a little bit sooner than I would expect, where we're having those colder mornings. This weather, you and I have talked about at great length how it's been all over the map. We've had hot, humid days yesterday. Then we had a storm go through and a cold front that I think lasted all of 45 seconds. Because when we got down there in the morning and the sun came up, the humidity was up there, the heat was up there.
Yep.
It was like no cold front even went through last night.
Yeah, we're showing here now, starting tomorrow, it's 26. And then the rest of the week, it's 27, 28 for like 6, 7 days. So this is going to be the first real week of stable weather. So the fish are going to go away. They're going to go crazy, because stability is the key. It
Absolutely.
just gets them in a routine of eating. So it'll be, you watch. Yeah, on the weekend we had the Thousand Islands Open, which is done by Renegade Bass down here, and it was just an absolute. The size of the fish, like the guys that won had like 23 something.
Holy
But that was for 4 fish.
Holy smokes! Wow.
And so you're coming close to 6 pounds a piece. Most people, even today, have never caught a 6 pound smallmouth on a scale. You know, they've caught lots that, oh yeah, that's a 6 pounder. But if you had to put it on a scale, it's not 6 pounds, you know, and like if you get that type of stuff, and 10th place was like 21 pounds or something. The fish the last day, the fish just jumped in the boat, because I actually thought, oh, the weights are down a little bit. There's usually, when it's 5 fish, somebody usually ends up there 128 or something, you know.
Yeah.
I think they've had close to 29 before, and it's just about perfect time out here. But the other thing too is that the water's been left alone on the Canadian side with all the American tournaments.
Yes.
And there was another one of the big MLF tournaments was on the river here on the weekend on the St. Lawrence, but they weren't allowed to go to the lake on the American side or into Canadian waters. So it was really cool to watch guys talking in boats, one's in Canada, one's in the States, and fishing the same little current break.
And really, it says a lot about the fishery that you can, sustain 2 major tournaments like that on the same river.
There's been 4 this year.
Unbelievable.
They still crack them. There were still guys bringing in 24 pounds, 20 pounds. And
so
it's also time of the season too, right?
Yeah. Can you give us an update on who won the Renegade as well as the MLF?
I'm sorry, I don't remember the guys' names who won the Renegade one, and it was the MLF. It was a guy that to me was a little bit newer. So it's kind of neat to see some of these guys, largemouth guys are learning to catch smallmouths. But there's a lot of guys fishing in the MLF now that are real hammers. They come from over around Lake Erie, Sturgeon Bay on Superior and places like that. They're down fishing for largemouths, not being so good at it, and then when they come north, they kick tail,
right?
Because they're the smallmouths is what they do. But my buddy Alex Davis there, Shimano guy from Alabama, he had a little bit of he brought in 22 pounds the first day. He said to me, "Oh, smallmouths aren't that hard."
Well,
first time he'd ever fished with a drop shot rod.
Now, Chad Sparkus is saying Chad Wenzel won.
Yes, Renegade. That's the name. Yeah.
Wow, a name I'm not familiar with. Obviously, a Canadian. Sparkus has congratulated him, so I'm assuming he is on this side of the pond. And I'm not sure who this is, but those are the standings that were left. Chad Wenzel and Martin weighed in an incredible 23 pounds to take. That's incredible. That is
because what they had to do was they broke them up and they fished half the first day, half the second day. And then they took the top, I think it was the top 40 or 30 or something, and they fished the last day. And they went back to 0 and took it from there. So it was kind of cool.
Stick down your way. That's incredible, Sparkus. So he's had lots of experience on St. Clair. I'm assuming you may have fished with him, maybe taught him a thing or two. I'm just kidding, but that's fantastic. Local boy takes Renegade on a body of water that he's probably seen and fished for many times. But let's face it, if you're learning on St. Clair, I would imagine St. Lawrence is a little bit different.
Well, the whole thing is just being able to fish current.
Right.
Once you learn how to fish current, that's the hard thing. Like I told you about the first time I went out here with Gussie.
Yeah.
On the big river, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I've never seen current this fast."
Yeah.
Like, you know, the year he was there, the water was a bit higher.
Yeah.
So, you know, like the river was moving 5 miles an hour. That's a good clip.
Does fluff, and I'm not trying to be funny, but does fluff work in these kind of situations in the current?
No, you'd have to be shallower.
Okay.
Fluff's primarily a sight thing, or if you can't see them, but you know you've got a GPS mark, or you know that in front of the big pile of rocks on the shore in front of the blue cottage, you know there's a current break there.
Right.
If you can always go in and just blindly fish it, but you won't see the guys that really know what they're doing with that stuff blindly fishing.
So what kind of presentations would they be using this past weekend?
Oh, that drop shotting would have been huge. Probably a few guys dragging tubes, and then the odd guys, jerk baits, other stuff like that. I'm sure there was some guys chucking rattle baits, other things. I talked to one guy there, and he said the last 2 fish that they weighed, they caught on a spinner bait.
Wow.
They saw some fish that were up on top of some rock in about 10 feet of water. They wouldn't touch anything, and they came back after, and they pulled the spinner bait through there as fast as they could turn the handle on the reel, and they caught 2 4.5 pounders just on their first day, and it just absolutely crushed it. Just about tore the rod out of their hands,
Right.
So, yeah.
So walk us through a day for Renegade. You're, obviously early in the morning, you might be casting shallow, as Sparkus says, long cast shallow. As the day progresses and, of course, boat traffic starts to pick up, these fish might then tend to go a little bit deeper. So you're going to change, I'm assuming, what, midday?
Yeah, a lot of the boats down there, Scotty, really stick to the channels.
Okay.
They really stick to the channels because there's too many wrecks happen.
Yeah.
You get out of the channels on the St. Lawrence and that area, but I mean, out on Lake Ontario, it's almost all drop shot, and like they fish these plateaus and they get into rock and boulder spots. I know some guys that have found boulders that are not charted on anything. They've found them by looking.
Right.
They just idle around in areas. They catch a fish and they don't know why they caught it. They'll go back and look. It's so important to do that, when you're practicing. Yeah. And not even if you aren't practicing, if you're fishing a spot because you're having a hard time and you decide to fish some fresh water that you had looked at before, or you just drove by and thought, hey, I should be fishing here. That happens.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's a real cut and dry plan, but even the best plans don't always come together.
Absolutely.
I've had some really good days when I've deviated. You have to stick to your plan, but it's the old bit about you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
What's the water levels down there, Jim? Last time we spoke, they were shallow and people were.
It's the St. Lawrence has not been low all year in this, like in the Lake Ontario area.
Okay.
Like I said to you there, we Tammy and I go a couple of afternoons a week. We'll go to the bank or groceries in Gann, and we will grab a tea at Hortons or a coffee and go down and sit in the little park. And the marks there, you can see the mark from about 4 years ago, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
When we had the big high water, you can see the marks still because it was high for so long. And Lake Ontario, according to the American side, was coming up 1 inch a week.
Wow.
Coming up 1 inch a week. And I have some spots where here, like every morning when I go to the gym, I drive by my boulder. It's just a big chunk of fill rock from when they built the bridge on the 401.
Yeah.
And that bridge there'd have been room for, or that boulder, there'd have been room for 3 of us to stand on it 6 weeks, 2 months ago. Now one person with their feet together.
Wow.
So don't tell me the water's not coming up in the lake. Boulders and things like that don't lie. If they're sticking out of the water 2 feet and then they're sticking out of the water this much, then the water's coming up. And that's that's what they said from the water people on the American side.
Wow.
But yeah, and you can tell in Gann the big town dock there, you can see it getting closer to a white mark of dried algae from last year, and it's getting closer to where it spent most of its time in the summer. Plus the amount of rain we've been getting.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some just some incredible rain. You see how lush everything is to grow?
Yeah.
There's an alfalfa field here about 2 miles from here. They've cut it 3 times now. They cut it again today. And they're cutting it when it's like 25 inches high. They're not cutting it when it's a foot or something.
Right.
It's really, really high when they're cutting it. It just keeps growing. There's so much rain. We're going to get sun this week. You watch everything grow. And really nice to see, too, there was so many of the trees stripped by those gypsy moths.
Yeah.
They're all growing leaves again. They're all full again.
That's fantastic. Yeah. No, true.
They come right back. It's just one. Those people see that and they think it's all doom and gloom. Like you thought it was going to kill all the trees. But the leaves are back on them. They're all growing again. You can see them. We were wondering too now, because those leaves just popped out now, will they take longer in the fall to fall off? Like, do they have a lifespan?
It's a great question. And
like, does a leaf good for? Like, does a leaf have 100 days life? Does it have 60 days? Does it, like they used to say it had to do with the angle of the sun, but I guess that's not true. I looked into a bunch of things about that a few years ago.
I thought it was all temperature specific, but if there's any arborists in the crowd that know a little bit about what's going to happen with these newly sprouted leaves, they're going to be
not Facebook arborists.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that counts me out. That counts me out. No, Jim, with those thunderstorms that rolled through, we noticed them in Lake Erie, and of course, they got them out that way as well. River fish, are thunderstorms? Do they have any effect on those fish?
River fish seem to be affected the least by cold fronts and weather. I don't know why it's like that, but it definitely seems to be like that.
Yeah,
from what I've seen. But Scotty, I've seen times when they delayed tournaments in the morning till 8:30 because it was a thunderstorm.
Yeah,
and lightning, and everybody was hiding underneath buildings or sitting in the boat with a rain suit on, looking like a drowned rat to wait to get going.
Yeah.
And you go out and the fish are jumping in the damn boat. You don't have to do all the funky little things. You just you take out a big topwater or a spinnerbait, a buzzbait, and they crush it. And then you go out the next time, and it's got to be like 2:00 in the afternoon before they even move. It's like sometimes it really spooks them. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find fish hit the best an hour before and an hour after a good thunderstorm. Jeremy, there's a lot of thoughts that have the same, or a lot of anglers that feel the same way as you do. And I always thought the minute you have a good thunder shower, that's when you go to top water. As soon as that rain stops, or maybe it's still raining, try the top water. And for some reason, it does something to the surface temperature that flips the fish. Any logic or truth to that, Jim?
I'm sure it adds a lot of oxygen.
Yeah.
One thing that beating on the water, but I just know that anytime you have a change in weather, the fish really get going just before it. And the bigger the change coming, the more it seems to affect them.
Yeah.
And it usually takes a day or so. It usually takes about a day or so.
Steve's got a great question. Back to your rock. When rocks get water covered, how long before fish will move onto them? Is it right away, or do they need?
Oh yeah, if they come to a rock, they're on it. Fish love rocks, eh? Yeah. Individual boulders. There's guys that fish the tournaments here out in Lake Ontario, and all they have is 100 rocks, 100 boulders on GPS spots, and they fish them all. At the end of the day, they have 23 pounds. One fish off each boulder. Some of the boulders are in 10 feet of water. Some of them are in 20.
Wow!
But you can see. I don't know what the visibility is this year, but I know 2 years ago was the last time I was on the St. Lawrence. And I told you about being out with my buddy, and I'm driving along, and we thought we were running up on rocks.
Yeah.
That's one thing you don't ever want to do when you come to rocks, stop. Because you pull back on the gas, the boat just digs in at the back when it slows down, especially a 22-foot Ranger with a 300 on it. That's a lot of weight back there.
Absolutely.
Pretty deep.
Yeah, water levels when we were in Erie, it seemed like they were down. There were a lot of rocks along the riprap. Yeah, we had. I've never seen those rocks before. We had somebody in town show us some pictures about a month and a half ago when they had that really bad windstorm where we were standing, which was quite close to the road and quite a ways up from the water, was completely covered in water. So these freakish storms that go through. And they blow all that water from the west to the east.
The water just goes like this across the lake, literally. I mean, I told you how many times I watch it here in the waterfront in Kingston. You get a south wind blowing for 5 days in a row, 20, 30 Ks, and all these rocks disappear. All the marker buoys that you used to see that were like this are now like this because it's taken the water's higher, so the buoy's floating. It's used up all the cable, doesn't have slack anymore, so it's not laying over.
Yeah.
Things like that, little things that you learn to watch for like that when you're out there. Right?
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, on the Ottawa River at the Bassmasters, the OBN last week, there was guys saying that there was markers on shoals and they couldn't find them, and they're looking around with the electric, and all of a sudden they see the marker buoy this far, like a foot and a half under the water.
No way.
The Javex container floating straight up on the rope because the water came up so high.
Wow.
So you got to watch a lot of these buoys disappear. They go under the water, right?
And it's interesting how it changes because, as I said, like down in the Arnprior area, they had a lot of muskie charters and captains were having issues because they were seeing stuff that they've never seen before because it was so shallow, and a lot of guys were ripping their lower ends off that never had an issue going through that before, and this year it's been completely different. But I'll tell you,
there's so many places where guys rip through, and it's only a few feet. You drop it a foot, you can easily hit.
Yeah.
It just takes one rock sticking up a little higher than the rest or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a little spot we used to float over in the boat, say going around this big island, and every once in a while, boy, someone would have to get out and pull the boat.
Yeah.
And since I was the heaviest and the tallest, I usually was the one that had to get out.
Yeah. Well, there you
and
go.
As soon as you get out, brings the boat up a couple of inches, and if you hang on the front of the boat when you're pulling it, it pulls the stern up out of the water and the motor skeg. You get it trimmed up all the way.
Yeah.
Amazing how, but if you got to go 6, 7, 8 miles around an island each way, and you know these little spots, but it was literally an area. There's 100 yards of rock that connect the island to the shore, but there's only one spot you can get through. And we've gone down with the electric. Look. Oh, there's the white rock. As soon as you get to the white rock, you go around it, and away you go. But if the water's down 6 inches, you got to be careful, or you'll be scraping your boat.
It reminds me of that sunken railway on Rice Lake. I don't know how many tales I've heard of people ripping their lower ends off, hitting those.
We used to fish the tournaments there and the walleye tournaments and everything. You'd be sitting there in the boat with someone who really knew the water, and they'd look. They'd be telling you, here comes some guy down the river, and boom, down the lake. It would happen. There's got to be more bits and pieces of boats laying around that.
I wouldn't doubt it. Which brings me to something that I do want to talk about, but it's not that we want to educate or speak of about our CFNers, because everybody understands boat etiquette. But today, one thing that I had the ability to sit back and watch as our CFNers went out and did their charters was the lack of boat etiquette that I saw in this one canal. There's just the one dock, the one ramp, and you had a boat that tied up, and they were having lunch. Nobody could moor to go get their truck to put the trailer in to get their boat out, or put their boat in, because this boat, and we thought they had engine trouble. It seemed that's what it was, but they were over having lunch, tied up to the dock, and somebody from our party went over and said, "Hey, that's not good boat etiquette," and they basically told her,
I untied the boat and pushed it away.
Well, and this is the thing. Like, I guess, how do you react to it? How do you deal with it? What's the proper way?
Well, you ask nicely.
Yeah.
You ask nicely, and it's one of those things. There's really ignorant, self-centered people out there, and boat launches seem to bring out the best of them. We watched guys here 2 nights ago launching a boat. They backed it down. And then they started taking the cover off.
Yeah.
And there's three or four guys in boats waiting to get out. And all of a sudden they're up there, and you could hear them arguing. I was sitting in the living room here, and they were dropping F-bombs right back and forth. And all of a sudden I heard the tires squealing from a truck, and somebody got in their truck and just drove it up across the road into the parking lot. Just got in their truck, started it, and put it to the floor.
And it's unfortunate because sometimes the situation is a lot to do with the environment. And of course, as I said, there was just the one ramp, and it's closest to the wharf to get out to Lake Erie. Perhaps maybe if there were two ramps, maybe three, I don't know. We talked about the difference that we have here on the Canadian side as opposed to on the American side, where we'll have one ramp, they'll have nine.
There's also what, 370 million of them.
True. And that, of course, yes. So what we're hoping, I guess, is as our population gets on par like the dollar is currently right now, we'll end up with more ramps. I don't know. We'll see.
You never know.
Well,
I know, like down in Kingston here, boat launches are non-existent. They're non-existent. They just aren't there, and they have all these tourism ads for boating. Kingston's a huge boating place.
Yeah.
Like they've got tons of marinas. Gananoque's got marina all along the St. Lawrence here. I mean, it's monster boating area.
Yeah.
But there's virtually no good boat launches.
Yeah.
There's a couple of places where you can launch a boat, but there's nowhere to park the trailer and the vehicle.
Yeah.
Literally, you have to drive 5 miles away to park it.
Wow.
So it just makes it kind of tough.
Wow. What have you got going on this week?
Working at home. Got a lot of stuff to do. Might get out in the St. Lawrence on Friday with a buddy.
Nice.
Yeah. Get out there.
We were talking about you today. Some of the folks were asking about Jim. Have you fished with Jim? I said, yeah. Oh, yeah. He said, what was the one takeaway that you had fishing with Jim? Well, just how big he was. And you wanted to mind your P's and Q's. But for me was watching you hook set a fish. And I was waiting for the thunder because I saw lightning. It went right by the side of my face. But watching you hook set, when you see a pro angler hook set like this man here, you get a better understanding of what we're not doing as average anglers. So, as I said, that was one thing that we had mentioned. But a lot of CFN.
I had a guy here saw me fishing out here the other night, and he yelled across there, "Big Jim, do you mind if I come over there?" And I said, "No, knock yourself out." So he came and he parked and he walked across the lawn. You know the way there's the little gate down at the back to come into the backyard.
Yeah.
And he walked in there, and I'm fishing. And I was fishing with a frog, and there's a huge explosion. And he said to me, "How come you never set the hook?" I said, "Well, I can see the frog." And he looks at me and he goes, "Really?" He says, "I just sort of hurt. I can't see that far." And he's like 50. I said, I said, "You need to go see the doctor and get glasses." I said, "My eyes were on that frog, and the frog never moved." The fish blew up about a foot away from it.
Yeah.
And the frog never moved, and I didn't move the frog. And then I said to him, "Watch," and I gave it one little twitch, and he ate it. And the guy, there's a guy got a lesson in something that I learned I learned 30 years ago. And I mean, frogs today are a lot different than they were back then. I can just about only fish a frog out here now or a Texas rig. There's so much weed and crap garbage. That big log that drifted in, I was salivating over. I've yet to catch a fish off it.
Wow.
I cannot believe how you can stick a log in my backyard out here, where every piece of weed, every lily pad, at one time during the year has a 3 or 4 pound largemouth under it or beside it. And this one has none. What do you mean Jim eats carrots? What's wrong with that?
Well, it's good. It's where you get all your strength from.
I was in the gym at 6 o'clock this morning.
There you go. Absolutely. Now, when it comes to topwater, I'm glad you brought this up because it seems to be a tendency for us average anglers. We never know when to set the hook when you're on topwater. We're using a frog, Zara spook, what have you. Sometimes folks get a little too excited and set the hook way too soon. What's a good theory and guideline for using topwater?
As soon as you see it, I put the rod toward them so they get slack line, so they have no problem eating it. It just comes to them, just like when you're fishing a jig and you see the line jump. I drop the rod tip, make sure they can get it in their mouth really easy. As soon as there's anything that you think a fish is there, and then you get that double compound hook set. When the line goes slack, you drop it, and by the time you come back, and depending how far away they are, it's like 2 to 3 seconds before you set the hook, which, a lot of people, they see the fish break the water to get the lure, and they may not be right on the lure. You know, when you feel the fish, you set the hook.
Yeah.
Now, with the top water with treble hooks, if you're using a big, swoop type bait or a big, some kind of a bladed prop bait on the surface or something, or,
Right.
the new ones like from Freedom and our buddy at Shine there with those belly flaps on them, with the blades on them, that type of stuff. When they hit that stuff, yeah, there's not too much time because there's treble hooks there. They're on that boom. They crush it. But with a frog, so often they miss the frog, and they really legitimately miss it. I believe that. But they come back to get it if you leave it.
Yeah.
Because, like I always tell people, when you get a bite on a jig and then you see them reeling their line back in quick, don't bring your line back. The fish told you wanted to eat it. Leave it sit there for a second. And they say, oh yeah, but my trailer got moved or something. The fish doesn't know it's a trailer. It's something he just tried to eat. He took a shot at it. He didn't get it. Just leave it there. Just like, ice fishing, I always tell people when something hits a spoon when you're working a spoon or something, or a jig and wrap or whatever, just leave it down there. You don't have to reel it back to the top. You reel it up, it's gone. You're not going to catch the fish. And with the frog, the thing with the frog is that when they miss it, if you leave it sit on the surface, they might come back and get it. And I would say my fishing, probably 20% of the time they come back and get it. But if you do that, 100 times a year, then there's 20 more fish. You're not going to do it 100 times a year unless all you fish is a frog. But I know guys that go out and are frog wild. That's what they do. They love fishing frogs, watching them blow up in the pads. They don't have to worry about getting snagged, so they just love that. That's the primary reason they don't get snagged. They don't care if they catch fish. And I see guys out there, I know that they fish frogs all the time, and I say, when was the last time you sharpened your hooks on a frog? And they sort of look at you and, well, I probably never sharpened the hooks on my frog. Remember you told me you missed 5 last night that you felt? And you get the frog and you can't even pick the hook in your finger. You're tearing it out of their mouths. You're hitting it on pieces of wood. You're hitting it with the pliers, getting the hook out. They get dull. And with a frog, they have to be razor sharp. Yeah, they have to be razor sharp.
So sharpening your hooks is one thing. Good advice. Curtis is asking, and I've always known if you're using top water that monofilament is your choice of line. What pound test would you recommend? And would you
fishing a frog and slop? I'm probably using 50-pound braid.
Oh, you're going straight to braid. Okay.
40 to 50 straight braid tied right to the lure. You never, like I said, I don't own a swivel to tie onto a lure except for a crankbait.
Gotcha. So there you go, Curtis. I had it wrong. I've always known mono to be used for top water only because it floats. Is that wrong?
Yeah, there's something about braid and the hook sets and everything. You can't, you don't want to overpower them because there's no give, but that's why you compensate with the rod.
Right.
So the rod is really flexible. A lot of times you'll see guys use just a short, like maybe 3 to 5 foot fluorocarbon leader on it too. And although fluorocarbon sinks, depends what you're doing with the lure. If you're going to use a little weenie popper and fish it real slow, then the fluorocarbon would sink. It's not good. But if you're using a lure that's like 4 or 5 inches long, a big Zara spook type bait, and you're just constantly working it across the top,
right?
The fluorocarbon doesn't have time to sink.
Right.
It doesn't have time to sink, and you got to think about stuff like that. And if you're a beginner or you don't do a lot of it and you're fishing in open water, monofilament will help you a little bit. It's a little more giving, but you got to set the hook a lot harder. That's the nice thing about fishing top water baits with braid is go fish with a 7.5 foot rod. Some guys will fish even longer, like 7-11, stuff like that. And they're putting it out there a half a mile for these open water smallmouths. Like literally chucking it, like it's got to be like a lot of times like maybe 40 yards. Like might be at 35 yards. People tell me, oh, I cast 100 yards. So you don't cast 100 yards. That's a football field. You cast in a football field? No. And 30 yards is close to 100 feet, and that's a good long cast. But the feel that you have in the hook setting ability with braid at that distance is incredible. You don't even have to wind up and set them. It's just one hand, and you just sort of sweep it, just like a crankbait.
Yeah.
You don't have to really haul on it.
No.
In fact, if you haul on it, if the lure's stuck in the outside of their mouth, you might tear it out. before they ever get hooked. And I had one there 2 years ago on the Big Rito. Ate a great big topwater bait, and it went across the water head over tail. Like, it was incredible to watch. Like, I was with Johnner, and the two of us are just. I'm not even fighting the fish anymore. We're just watching it. Like, it wasn't a tournament. We're fun fish, it was just something to do.
Yeah.
This fish entertained us for like 10 seconds. It was absolutely incredible. But it ate the bait. You know what I mean? It was inside its mouth. Half the bait was inside its mouth. But no, it's
Our Team Ontario qualifier, Alicia, she ties a mono leader to braid. It's just a preference. And you're not alone, Alicia. I've heard that from a lot of anglers that they do like that that little bit of mono for give, stretch, what have you. But for no other reason, from what I understand, it floats. We don't have
braid does basically too. So
that's true.
But like I say, I'm not a slow. Like, if I'm fishing the top water, it's going out and coming back.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I said, you could even get away with fluorocarbon if you want, because I'm fishing it so fast that the line just never has time to sink.
Right on.
Never has time to sink.
Jimmy, as always, buddy, I just saw Lawrence show up in the lobby, and we've got Dave Gillis from Wishing I Was Fishing also in the lobby, who's going to be joining us to tell us a little bit about his event that went on in Saskatchewan. But I just wanted to say on behalf of CFN, thanks for your patience. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, no problem, buddy. You're having a good time today. That's what it's all about.
It was just, you know what? It was just great to see so many folks having a great time, and how hard our charter captains worked so that they did have a good time. It means the world when you see that kind of effort put forth.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to do this week is I might get a haircut. I think I'm going to grow a mullet, and I'm going to call Fighter up and tell him mine's longer, because it's down there now, boy. I got a good start.
It sure is. Braids. I think braids are what are they?
My wife told me I should get
long stockings.
They call it a rat's tail in the back, because my young grandson has one.
Wow.
You should grow a longer one. I said I need another foot of hair.
Right on, buddy. You take care. Stay safe.
Be good, guys. Everybody fish safe out there.
Thanks for all you do, my friend.
Take care. Say hi to Lawrence for me.
Will do. Take care. Alrighty. And we had one pop in just quickly there. But before we bring in Lawrence, here is a word from our sponsor. And we want to thank Bait to Go Outdoor Flavors today. I can't thank Stuart Brown enough for the all dress mix that we used. It was absolutely fantastic. And the fish that was served to our guests, they loved every bite. Not a single bit of fish was left by the end of the day. So thanks to Bait to Go for that generosity, as always.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Legend?
Well, back from a legendary trip. You had a vacation that you just came back from. Tell us where you went.
We went to Sandbanks. You know, we do that every summer. There's a little campground down there where we set up on West Lake. I got a little shoreside, you know, to get a campsite right on the water, right? We've been doing that for 15 years. I bring my little plastic fishing boat, which is why, you know, one of the reasons I got that little folding boat is because you can take a trailer, you know, and you can put that boat on a roof rack, right? It's a good 12-foot boat that fits on a roof rack, all folded up. It's the size of a surfboard. Wow.
And it doesn't take very long to put it together, as we saw in one of the videos that you shared with us. It's literally together in like, what, 10, 15, 20 minutes?
The guy that used to sell them, he could do it in just under a minute. I take a little longer. Like he was amazing, because there's four screws with wing nuts to put the transom board in, but the rest of it's just like the seats just pop in, and you pop in a little key, and boom, it's all done. But yeah, it's nice to have that boat there. But I'll tell you one thing: we were swimming over by the dunes, right? And if you know Sandbanks Provincial Park. There's the outlet side with the big long beach, and then there's the dune side, which has all the sand dunes. And there's a buoy line about 10 yards offshore. So that separates the swimmers from the jet skis, right?
Okay.
Because it comes, it's right on the point coming off Lake Ontario, and the jet skis get pretty close. So they put a buoy line up. Well, there's a man with two boys fishing in the swimming area, and I understand there's weeds in the swimming area, and he figures there's fish in the weeds. But I said to him, hey, I said, maybe it's not a great idea to, fish in here, because if you lose a hook on the rope, on the buoy rope or something, you get snagged on that, you break off, someone could get that in their hand, right? And he goes, oh, I'm allowed to fish here. I said, are you sure? I said, you sure you checked the regs? And he goes, I'm allowed to fish here. And he called me a few names. and I thought, oh man, there's someone giving angling a bad name, right? Like, why would you fish in a designated swimming area?
And this is the thing, like we talk about perhaps folks that just don't know, but there's a guy that just doesn't care and will never probably learn because he's not willing to take some, criticism, whether it be, soft, hard, whatever, negative, positive, but some positive criticism doesn't hurt anyone, especially if it's there to teach you something. And obviously, a guy like that, you're never going to teach anything because he's just
no. And I wouldn't even have said something, but my wife was adamant that I say something, or she was going to say something, and I thought, well, I better say something. But so I said it with a smile on my face and just nicely, and but no, he wasn't having any of it. It was his born given right to fish in the swimming area, and so there you go.
Incredible. Well, listen, on a positive note, happy belated birthday from all
thanks.
CFN.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
You're 21, was it? 21?
Yeah, 21 minus 70. No, I'm up to 58 now. 58.
Wow. Good for you, man. Well, 58 fantastic years, and let's hope there's 58 more to come. I know there's a couple things that you wanted to talk about today. Unfortunately, I didn't get to my phone in time to see what the list was, so I'll just let you take it from there.
All right. Well, I've been doing the Dover Court Youth Fishing Camp. We've had 3 weeks now of youth between ages of 12 and 15. These are Ottawa urban youth that want to learn how to fish. Shimano stepped up big time with rod and reel packages. And we all, helped out with that, get the kids into that, and a little tackle pack. And, the camp counselors come, they send 2 lifeguards with the kids every day on the bus. We spend 4 days at a lake, and then 1 day on the Ottawa River with the Ottawa River Muskie Factory guides, taking the kids out in turn, Wow. So I think last week, the 12 kids caught over 156 fish in the 5 days.
Holy smokes, good for them.
I know. And their best day was the rain day. Like that, it just lit up in that inner city pond kind of lake, Dow's Lake. They had kids were catching 8-9 fish each on that rain day. So
we were just talking about this with Jim in regards to weather patterns and when you think or when you experience some of the better fishing. And I think it was Lloyd that said just before he can't wait to get out on the water just before it starts, and then usually right after it's over, he's done. But yeah, a lot could be said. These fronts that come in, these storms that pass, this rain that falls, it oxygenates the water, it stirs things up, and it gets the fish interested and hungry.
Absolutely, it does. I think what it does is fish are smart enough now, that when they get older, they realize if it rains hard, the water's going to get murky and feeding is going to get really hard, right? Because they're going to lose their visibility. So they're going to feed as much as they can before their visibility gets shut down with murkiness, runoff and so forth. So they're coming out. It also gets a little darker, so they feel a little more boldened to come out and play as the bait. They feel like they can't be seen as easily, so they can come out from their cover and move around more. So there's that going on as well. But it gets quite vigorous. I mean, the only time, I always want to go out there and fish before a storm. Absolutely. I don't care if it gets a little windy, but you hear people, it's never happened to me, but people fishing, and then the fishing line starts to float up, right? Like
Yeah.
in midair because of the electricity in the air. Then you know you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
You're going to have a bad time. You're 100% right. Interesting, though, that you bring up this this venture that you were on. A great initiative, getting inner city kids. We're going to be talking to Dave Gillis momentarily from Wishing I Was Fishing. My good buddy Stanley, he does the Next Gen program, which takes a whole whack of inner city kids out in the Lindsay area and gets them out on the water. How important are these inner city initiatives to get these kids fishing?
Well, first of all, some of these kids don't have opportunities to get out of the city, right? They don't have maybe parents are with cars. I mean, so getting out of the city, getting into some lake, it maybe not be an option for them. The other thing I noticed with these kids is, and I was talking about this with a friend today too, when we were putting the Bluefish News together. It's out tomorrow, by the way. You can talk to people like our age, right? Baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, or whatever, people that are ready, they form their own ideas of what's right and wrong. And they form those ideas on their own research, their own experience, what their mentors taught them. And it's very difficult to get people to switch their ideas. But if you catch people young enough while they're forming those ideas, their concepts of right and wrong, ethical behavior, bad behavior, and you teach them how to handle fish, which fish to keep and which ones to let go, how to make sure they're going back healthy, all of that information, right? It just becomes it's their baseline. It's their baseline, using barbless hooks and not, taking the fish out of the water and doing the grip and grin kind of pictures all the time, but, doing pictures of themselves with the fish in the water, just holding the tail with the head underwater, things like that. They're learning this stuff. It becomes their norm. And yeah, maybe they'll grow up and at some point they'll be our age and people will put us down or laugh at them because they're doing it the wrong way, or, where the hell did they learn how to do that? Don't you know any better? And all that stuff, right? Because things change. We're always evolving our knowledge on this stuff. But to get them that young, it's so amazing because they don't have to unlearn something. And that's so much easier. It's not easy to teach an old dog new tricks.
That is such a poignant statement that you make. It's right on point. It is true. You can't unlearn something. When somebody teaches you catch and release, you don't unlearn that. You might question why, as a young person, why is it so important? Why does it matter? These are fish. It's not a human being. Why do I got to release that? So there is, maybe that certain aspect of it as well, that maybe our young anglers who are growing up with fishing moms and dads don't necessarily understand everything, but if they see enough of it, like you said, you're not going to unlearn that. You're not going to unlearn the importance of handling a fish or the need to put certain fish back, whether they be big or small. That's all taught at a very young age, and you see enough of it. Monkey see, monkey do.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. And it just becomes ingrained in their DNA. It's so rewarding. I mean, we shared with them so much information. We had other guest speakers coming in. All our instructors are there to teach stewardship as well as how to catch fish, right? And the two go hand in hand. Like I explained to them, if you want to catch fish, you also have to make sure you're taking care of the fish and their habitat, and that you've got an eye on the game, and that you're going to help out with some research and do a little citizen science and check on things, because you're the one out there. You're the eyes on the water. You're the ones who are knowing what's happening. You know what they really like, though? What those kids really like is when I start telling them about, feel the bite. Like I go through what is a fishing rod for, right? And they, casting, reeling the fish, hooking the fish, and all these things, all the exciting parts of what you use a fishing rod for. And I said, yeah, but 99% of the time, you're using it just the same way I use my white cane. It's a feeling thing. It's a sensor. That's why we spend $500-$600 on some of these really amazing fishing rods, because of their sensitivity, right? What do we talk about when we talk about fishing rods? Sensitivity. And the more we spend, the better the quality of the rod, the more sensitive it is. I mean, we're all talking like blind people when it comes to fishing rods.
Interesting concept. And is this a great segue into your Feel the Bite segment?
I get. Let's go there.
Wow. That's a great way of putting it. And then, of course, an individual like yourself in the situation that you are, a lot of people may not know Lawrence is visually disabled. And uses a cane, as I said, to feel things, to be able to walk and carry on a normal life. Whereas, it's an extension of our fishing pole. It's an extension of our arm. And we do have all of our senses, the ability to see, what have you. But that's interesting how I want to say metaphorically use it in that scenario. That's amazing.
Good anglers get it. When I talk to men about fishing, and here's my tip: your fishing rod is your instrument. It's not your club. We all want to go out there and our primal instincts kick in. Let's get the game. The hunt is on, right? And our urge, our DNA tells us to grab our club, grab our weapon, and go out there and get something.
Yeah.
Well, women fish. Women are using tools. Women use things like they make things, so they're used to using tools. A fishing rod to them is another tool. So they don't grasp it like a club. They hold it like an instrument. And if you think about, everyone's had, except me maybe, white knuckle driving experience, right? Yeah. Where you're towing something and it's not behaving well behind your vehicle and it's swaying and you're just having a hell of an experience. And then you get there where you're going and you look at your hands and your fingers are white because you've been clutching the steering wheel so hard, the blood hasn't been going into your fingers anymore.
Right.
And you lose your sense of touch. You lose your sense of feel when you grasp things hard. So my tip today is hold your fishing rod like an instrument, not like a club. And don't be afraid you're going to lose it, because if you're paying attention, as soon as that fish gives you that big hurricane jerk, like smallmouth can or pike or muskie, you're gonna clamp down on that fishing rod for sure. You're gonna clamp down on it. You're not gonna lose your fishing rod. I've never known anyone that's been paying attention that's had a fishing rod ripped out of their hand. It happens when they're not paying attention, or when they put their fishing rod down to get a sandwich out or something like that, right? But not when they're fishing. So just hold it like a tool, like an instrument. Don't hold it like a club, because you're gonna feel so much more.
Great advice, and absolutely words to live by. I know you have been following the plight of our BC salmon. My biggest concern, and I'm just wondering if you have a bit of an update with all these forest fires out in BC, with the inclement weather that's going to come in the fall, and they always usually get big bursts of moisture. I'm concerned that you're going to see a lot of washouts in a lot of our rivers. The rivers aren't going to look like they are now, without that timber holding a lot of that mud back. Is this just going to compound the problem in BC?
Well, for sure, there's going to be, maybe not this year, but next year when the spring melt comes, those mountain slopes where they've had decimation from forest fires, you're going to have a lot more erosion happening. And that's problematic. That's problematic for sure in terms of the spawning beds being covered in silt and sand. And so the more fires, the more erosion, the more spawning beds get corrupted. Yeah. And that's a loss. That's a loss. And it takes years of spring floods and extreme, weather events, hard rains to wash those beds clean again. Right. So it doesn't happen overnight. The big problem right now is the heat. We've got a lot of snow in the mountaintops that melted really fast. And then we had a lot of fast water, a lot of washouts, a lot of erosion because of that. Now that snow melt in the northern mountaintops has melted. There's less coming down. That should have happened throughout the whole summer. It happened too quick, too soon. Nothing left. So the water now is slowing down, and the heat. The heat and the sun and the heat is warming up that water. Like in California, many of the rivers in California, they're worried they're not going to have any salmon smolts that are going to survive this summer.
Jeez,
that it's going to be a complete loss of smolts this summer. And Canada, the BC coast, the southern part of BC, they're expecting more of the same. That they're also going to have problems. We're already can see evidence of sea life, actual sea life, cooking to death in shallow waters along the coastline, just overheated, just dying. Up north, it's doing much better. They're having a tremendous runs of fish up in the northern section, but far north, almost into Alaska. Like the Skeena River system. up in northern British Columbia, that there's no fishing in that whole system right now for the season. That's been shut down for recreational fishing. So there's a lot of issues around that. The Public Fishery Alliance just had a protest out in front of DFO saying, hey, give us some catch and release opportunities, give us some mark selective fishing opportunities. Come on, we've got the science, let us at it. Because right now they've closed, Howe Sound, no catch and release, no harvesting, no fishing. So the opportunities in southern BC just to go out and catch a fish, even if it's catch and release, and that's a problem. But I'm still hopeful. I think this government is listening. They closed 60% of the commercial salmon fishery on the West Coast. They did not close the remaining recreational fishery. So the public fishery, they are listening to all sides, I think. And I know I got friends out in British Columbia that feel that, the politicians in Ottawa are not listening. And I understand their frustration. For sure. I'm trying to be hopeful without being political and thinking, well, they haven't slammed the door. No one slammed the door on public fishing. They haven't creaked it open as much as people want. And to put it back, but it hasn't been slammed shut. So
that's good.
Fingers crossed.
And moving just one province over in Alberta, do we have an update in regards to what's going on with the coal mining in the future that they have?
It's still up in the air. There's still leases that are existing. There's still Teck Mines that operates coal mines on the BC side of the Alberta-BC border that's operating. They're getting under more and more pressure. There's criticism now that maybe BC government gave Teck Mines a sweetheart deal to contaminate the watersheds there on the BC side of the Rocky Mountains along the BC-Alberta border. Mm-hmm. So Alberta wants a piece of that action too. And, it looks like things might still go ahead on that front. There still seems to be activity. There hasn't been an out-and-out cancellation of those coal mines. So, yeah, that's still in play, unfortunately.
Interesting. I'm trying to do my best to read up on what's going on in the Lake of the Woods because, of course, everyone knows very passionate about walleye. And when Gord Pizer comes on and talks about them being on a decline, serious decline, of course, it makes me want to go to whatever publication I possibly can to read up on. It's something that I have known since the 90s, that there was a concern based on take. I don't think the numbers were in a decline at that time, but they were just concerned at the level of take, and they were concerned about the sustainability of that take. Now, unfortunately, as Gord has mentioned, and I'm sure there's a lot of others that have noticed the same thing, the numbers are on decline. What are some of the solutions that you're hearing coming out of the think tank in regards to what's going on Lake of the Woods?
There's going to be a slot. There's going to be a slot. There's not going to be under over. It's going to be a slot. They're going to be, a minimal size, like one size fish. The juveniles will be returned. The breeders will be returned. And that's not a bad thing. That's where it's heading. And it's got head. They did that with the Winnipeg River. It was facing the same sort of situation not that long ago as Lake of the Woods, and they did the same thing there. It took 10 years. The walleye fishing on Winnipeg River is pretty good now. So it turned around. It takes about 10 years to turn it around. Now, combine that with pressure to address the blue-green algae issue in the southern half of Lake of the Woods, which the Canadian government is on. They're working on that. The U.S. states have made commitments to reduce phosphate loads into that, because everything flows out of the United States into that lake. Yeah. And now we have a few areas where we have to do the same thing to reduce phosphate loads going into that lake. Not too much, but enough to get it under control, because we've got a bit of a dead zone down at the bottom end there. Because there's, when you get a bunch of blue-green algae and then you have 2 days of cloud, all that stuff just sinks to the bottom and dies. And when it dies, the anaerobic bacteria takes off. It grows like crazy. It chews up that rotting algae, but it also sucks the oxygen out of the water at the same time and creates hypoxia, or a lack of oxygen in the water that's, deadly to fish. So the fish have to get out of there. but that really limits their opportunities for good water. It means they can't stay deep where the water's cooler. They have to move into the shallower water where there's more oxygen, but that's also where the water's hotter. And we know now also that Manitoba is facing its own heat wave. So the fish move shallower to get oxygen. They get warmer. They also have to eat more now because their metabolism speeded up. So they're a little more frantic, they're a little more active than they want to be. So it's stressful for them. It's stressful for them.
To move on our East Coast, something that has not been talked about for a long time, because, it was almost, I want to say, a very controversial topic. Probably still is. But, for a number of years, our inshore fishermen out on our East Coast have been concerned about the sea lion population. And, of course, the recent surge in shark sightings, especially great white, would suggest that they're there because there's an ample amount of food. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see them opening up the seal hunt again?
It's kind of sad that the European Union won that battle, right? That they wouldn't allow the export of seal pelts into Europe anymore from Canada because of that hunt. And that affected the Inuit in northern Canada as well, in the Arctic. They can't sell their seal pelts either, right?
Right.
And most of the big fashion houses now, like the ones that make the expensive clothing for people to buy, they've all implemented fur bans, right? Even Canada Goose just now said that I think in a year from now they're not going to use wolf fur around the hoods anymore to trim their hoods. So they're all, all the European designers and Canadian designers now are all sort of caving to that pressure of using polyester, oil-based products for fake fur instead of real fur that's organic, that's natural, that decomposes, that goes back to the ground. And it puts all our trappers, all our Indigenous and Inuit and First Nations and other trappers into a situation where they're not making any money. And certainly those seal fur hunters on the East Coast aren't making any money. Where they're making money is still on seal oil. They take the seal, they take the seals and they get the oil out of the fat, and they put it in capsules and they sell that to China and Japan. It's an aphrodisiac, but there's just a handful of people that are milking that cow, right, for some good money. It doesn't keep everyone employed. But the other thing is, even if they wanted to go seal hunting, on the ice around Newfoundland, they don't have many opportunities anymore because they're not getting those big ice packs like they used to. Mm-hmm. So and when they do, it's very unstable ice. So, that might not even be a choice anymore. Climate change is taking that choice out of our hands. And unless things go back, those seals are going to have less and less opportunity to have their pups, less ice floes to have their pups on around Newfoundland and Labrador. So that might just resolve itself in terms of numbers.
Someone here, a Facebook user, is suggesting, can they not selectively harvest seals?
Yeah, what do you do with them though, right? Like if no one wants to buy their pelts and you're not going to eat the meat, because seal meat is not that good. Like taste wise, it's all dark meat, right? It's super rich. It's like eating goose, It's just really hard to get it to the point where it tastes good. So yeah, what do you do with it?
Good point. What's upcoming with Bluefish Radio and your Feel the Bite and any of the other many initiatives you're a part of?
Okay, you guys check the news out, the Bluefish Canada news. We'll get a link up there. It's coming out tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. And here's your say. Here's your opportunity. What would you like to see more of in the Bluefish news? What do you want to see less of? Where do you want to see this going? I need your input. I need listeners' input on this. And if you guys could help share that link around, it's just check boxes. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. No, yes, no. It's nothing you have to think too hard about. I designed this little questionnaire. You shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes. We tested it to get through it, and you don't have to do the whole thing if you don't want to, but just check the boxes that ring your bell. Yeah, I like that. Check. Oh, no. Yeah, I like that. Check. And I just want to get some feedback from you guys on that, because, we are producing one of the few, if any, newsletters and podcasts in Canada that have to do with fishing and fish and conservation and the future. And people are paying attention to this, right? People in positions of decision-making positions are reading and listening to what we have to say. So I think, we have to keep making this better and better. If you don't grow it, you're going to lose it. It's like a business. If you stop growing, you start dying. So we have to keep this ball rolling. Scotty, you're like an entrepreneur with everything you do, as well, my friend. And you're constantly evolving everything.
Well, it's funny. We were talking about that today, Lawrence, and somebody made the mention. They like, Scotty, where's your wife in all this? Because my wife doesn't enjoy the outdoors like I enjoy the outdoors. She'll go on a boat, and enjoy a boat ride, but fishing is not her thing. When it comes to big crowds, she's not a big crowd kind of person. So, how they always say opposites attract, because we always say to ourselves, how did we ever get together? We're so opposite. We're so different. But it's true. Opposites attract. And my wife truly supports everything I do with the community. But her biggest concern, of course, is the growth and where it's going to go, much like what's gone on with Bluefish Canada and all of the initiatives and the reach that you have enjoyed over the years when it comes to gathering information, molding information, getting folks informed. But you're right. It's an ever-evolving machine that is fired by a community. And as you've reached out to that community and asked what it is they'd like to see more of from Fish Canada. So we do the same on a regular basis. So tip of the hat to you for doing the same for your community.
Yeah. So you guys help me out with this one. Give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. Don't be afraid to express your opinions and your thoughts. It'll all be confidential. There'll be no repercussions.
Right on. That's awesome. Well, Lawrence, listen, thanks for being patient. We were a tad bit late tonight, but for good reason, very good reason. But we thank you for sticking around and informing us. Nice to see you back from the family vacay.
Yeah.
We look forward to your segments in the future.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And hey, who hasn't come home late from a good day of fishing, right? Like, I'm never going to point fingers.
And the thing was, I because everybody says, Scotty, aren't you going out on the boat? No. This is all about you guys. This is all about the community. I want to see you guys get out fishing. So I'm the host. I make sure that their stuff's looked after in the park. We had huge fish fry. It was great times, great memories, and some great people. And I can't, as I said, it makes it all worthwhile, dude.
That's what life's about. It's the memories, eh? Making those memories.
Amen.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brother, you take care of yourself. You enjoy, and we will see you here next Monday.
Cheers, buddy.
All the best, Lawrence. Fantastic guy. Great to see him back, and I know he is going to be gathering a wealth of information. Everybody that takes a breather, whether it be a vacation or just a sabbatical of a short duration, comes back full engines running, and I see him doing exactly that. Before we bring in our next guest, and I'm really excited to introduce Dave. We've met him before from many things that we have done in the past. We went out and visited him in Saskatchewan, as well as Wishing I Was Fishing initiative. They had a great thing that happened this past weekend that Dave was at the forefront of, and he's going to tell us all about it right after this message from our sponsor. Dave Gillis is in the house. How you doing tonight, Dave? He's frozen.
How you doing?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Good, buddy. Unfortunately, I can hear you. Yeah, there's a little bit of delay. Yeah, there's a little bit of delay in your video. So unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to test this tonight, unfortunately, before we went to air. But yeah, there is a bit of a delay. So I'm going to ask the question basically, and you just run with it. We'll listen to what you have to say, but tell us about the initiative that went on this past weekend and some of the kids that benefited from it.
Well, we brought out North Central Family Center out of Regina, along with the Royal Canadian Legion out of Regina here. And we had 15 kids, and we had about 20 vets come out. Some are still in active duty, and they all grabbed the fishing rod and they went fishing for the day. Unfortunately, it was 35 above out and the water was pretty warm, so they didn't catch much for fish. They caught about a 6-inch pike. I think that was the only fish caught. And the water was so warm that the carp are dying from the heat in the water.
Wow.
But they all enjoyed the day. We had one young girl there. She was 10, 12 years old. Every 2 minutes, she was running back, getting more bait put on her hook. And she kept running by us saying, that fish is biting, but he won't take the hook. And she'd throw it out again. You'd watch the worm go one way and the hook go the other. But she kept on trying. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Well, and there were a lot of key partners that were involved in this initiative. It was great to see some CFNers like Lloyd was out there giving you a hand.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of other CFNers as well as other volunteers that helped out. And this is a volunteer effort. And, the premise behind it is truly remarkable. You and Sarah are keeping your son's memory vivid and full of life through the venture of Wishing I Was Fishing. And the fact that you're taking vets out that are perhaps maybe suffering from PTSD or any other kind of mental illness, not to mention the fact as we mentioned earlier, bringing some of the inner city kids that may not have the opportunity to go fishing. Truly remarkable.
Yeah. And then, like you said, with the vets there and their PTSD, I had one volunteer come out and he wasn't doing too good for the last few months. He kind of disappeared off social media and everything else. I phoned him up. I told him I'm having this event. He told me this spring he was interested in volunteering. And like I said, he disappeared on. So I got a hold of his wife and I said, if he's around, tell him to call me. And he ended up coming out and he said it's the best thing for him. He said he crawled out of his little rabbit hole and he was just impressed with the whole thing. And yeah, that's what it's all about, Scotty. People coming out, having a good time. One of our cooks, actually, she's about around my age, 29. She grabbed the fishing rod for the first time in her life. She went out there, give it a cast. She loves fishing now. She's going to start taking up fishing. So it doesn't matter what age you are.
You're 100% right, Dave. And the one takeaway I had, if there was one takeaway, there was many today with what we did. But young Ava, when she came up and gave me the biggest hug at the end of the day to thank me about everything that went on, and I can attest, I speak for Michelle. It meant the world, and it makes it all worthwhile when you are able to turn the light on in a young angler. The young mind, our next generation of anglers, is truly the trophy that you put in the case. That's what we're here for. It's what we want our legacy to be, and it's why we do what we do. Now, of course, you had some help, as I mentioned, from our Saskatchewan chapter, as well as a bunch of other Saskatchewans, but also you had some great sponsors that helped out as well.
Yeah, we had the Royal Canadian Legion out there. And as far as sponsors, we had SaskTel, we had Sask Power, we had all kinds, Sask Energy, SGI. They all donated. They all helped out. And yeah, Rob Young's metalwork. Yeah, well, the list goes on, Scotty. We even, like, some sponsors give us a handful of hooks, some give us tackle boxes. Like, oh yeah, it was amazing.
Well, without a great support group, none of this gets done. And yes, you might be the focal point and the flagship of the initiative, much like some would say with CFN, I might be that, but we can't do what we do without a supporting cast. So to all the sponsors that helped out with Wishing I Was Fishing, of course, all the volunteers, not to mention the Legion. I think that's remarkable, and a tip of the hat to everyone that did make this a successful outing, even if the weather didn't necessarily cooperate.
Yeah, she was a warm one, but even you guys helped out amazingly enough, Scotty. You guys jumped right in there, helped me out tons, and I even gave away. I even had the red hats for him to wear that day. So
right on. Well, as I said, I can't thank True Outdoors for helping us with that, as well as our good buddy River Reaper and Corey Son that sent a whole whack of bobbers and floats out your way, as well as the hats. But sitting down with you and Sarah, we did that live when I was in Saskatchewan a couple years back, and it was a moving description of what has brought us to where we are now, in the memory of Brad Gillis, your son, your late son, and what you're trying to do with his memory, I think, is truly remarkable. And as I said, every little bit helps. And in your area, you're doing a fantastic job, and you can see the support you're getting. Just the number and volume of support that people think it's definitely a worthy cause.
And what a lot of people don't realize is they watch something like this and they say, "Oh yeah, well he has lots of help there. Yeah, everything's going good." But I finished that event. I'm taking a week off, and then starting next week, I got to start planning for next year.
Yeah,
and then that's when support like you guys and everybody else. That's when it really counts, because there's a lot of work behind the scenes just to put on a 4-hour event.
It's true, and anybody that's had to do it, and I know there's a lot of you that have, you begin to understand the amount of work and dedications that's required to bring this to light. Because anybody can have a great idea, but it's the execution that makes it happen. And as I said to you and Sarah, you guys are doing a fantastic job executing. Take that week, take that break, enjoy every minute of it. It's well deserved.
I'm going walleye fishing for 3 days, and I'm not even going to look at my phone.
There you go. Whereabouts are you going to head?
I'm going camping up at Last Mountain Lake here for 3 days.
Right on. And how's the fishing up there lately?
I wasn't out on the water for about 3 weeks now because I was planning this event and getting everything organized. But I see Kelly DeLorme's out there pulling out fish, and Walter was up there pulling out fish. So they're biting up there.
I noticed in Last Mountain, and Kelly and Walter, they can jump in if they're on here, but it seems like you've got a bit of an algae bloom going on in Last Mountain. Is that a lot of the rain that's happening up there, or is that normal for that body of water?
It's not too bad in Last Mountain, but like I said, I wasn't out there for 3 weeks. It might be a little bit different now. It doesn't usually get bad at Last Mountain. It's usually down in the Capel Valley area where I host my event. It's bad down there usually end of July, beginning of August. Once the warm weather hits, then it starts getting better.
That's awesome. Are you? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go. I was just going to say, are you looking possibly next year to move the event, or are you going to have it at the same place? Because I do believe you're very close to the research group, the Sportfish Research Group in Saskatchewan. They're close by, are they not?
Yes, we're right at the fish hatchery there, the Saskatchewan Fish Hatchery. We're right across the road from it. Actually, we use their parking lot to park the vehicles in. And when they were open, they got a full facility there for washrooms and that. We use them. And they're more than happy to have us. But this year they were closed. They never opened since COVID. So we kind of had to rent everything. That was an extra cost, but what do you do?
This is it. All right. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough, Dave, for joining us and sticking around and being so patient. Were there any last words that you wanted to give to any of your volunteer sponsors or anybody else that was a part of it?
Just want to thank everybody that did come out. I want to thank CFN for helping out Saskatchewan. And like I said, it was just an amazing time. And thank you, everybody.
That's awesome. Well, listen, Dave. Well, no, absolutely, and it was so important to get you on here to do exactly that because it's, as I said, we get this stigma that we're more of an Ontario-based community than the rest of Canada, and with initiatives like yours going on, I feel like we're in your own backyard, even though we may not be, but we certainly want to give that impression with future support and anything we can do to help out Dave and Sarah. We're in.
Oh, you're freezing up on me.
Yeah, likewise. Dave, on that note, I'm going to let you go, my friend. You take care. Keep up the great work. You and Sarah, enjoy your time off. You deserve it. And hopefully you catch me a whale.
Okay, I'll be posting pictures if I do, and I'll be phoning you for help. Okay, talk to you later.
Right on, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
All the best, Dave. Right on. Well, great show. Sorry it was late. As I said, it's for a good reason. We had a fantastic time. And again, the 2021 CFN meet and greet is officially over, but it doesn't mean there isn't going to be lots of posts in the near future if they aren't going on Facebook already and other social media platforms. Again, big shout out, thank you to our hosts, Lord of the Fins, as well as Fishing Fanatics Charters, Michelle, Adam, Matt Bomeister. You guys knocked it out of the park, and we can't thank you enough, as well as all the sponsors. Stay tuned. If the pictures have not hit Facebook or the rest of the social media platforms, they will in the coming days. But it was a great event, and now we look forward to the CFN retreat, where I can say that we have, I believe, 2 spots available. So if you're looking, August 14th is your travel date up to the 21st of August. So it's coming up pretty soon, but there are at least 2 spots, if not 4. But I'm going to say with confidence, there's 2 spots available. If you are interested, it's $125 a night. That includes your food, your lodging, and the use of a boat. Hard to get a hotel room for less than $125 a night. But as I said, to be surrounded by great CFNers, great fishing, and our great hosts, Doris and Warren, who are going to put on a great show. We look forward to that in the coming weeks. But as Dave said, we get to take a breath, and then we're going to be right back at her when it comes to the promotion of our retreat, because it is something that we are truly proud of. And really, we have all the reason to be, because anybody that has been and gone has experienced what we've experienced, and that's why we keep going back for more. So stay tuned to that. I can't thank all of my legacy members, because I'm sure you were answering all kinds of questions. What's going on with CFN Live? Why hasn't it come on? Again, we were delayed. Apologize for that. But to Steve and everyone else, thanks for that. Thanks for sticking behind us and making sure that the show must go on. Have yourselves a great week. Can't thank you enough for all of your support. And you guys take care. Love you. All the best. Peace.